probably the most difficult part of an art analysis is actually trying to describe this. So talking about 3 elements and 3 principles. It's presuming that you know what elements and principles are. So what we need to do is identify that. So what I'm going to do is show you this. So the elements of art. So the elements are the building blocks or the basic components used by an artist to create an artwork. So we've got line, shape, form, space, texture, color, value, and tone. A way to explain the elements is to think of them as the raw materials and the principles of how you will mold and shape them into an artwork. Another way of thinking about the elements and principles of art is comparing them to baking a cake. The elements are the ingredients and the principles are the recipe. An artist follows a composition following a recipe with the appropriate ingredients. The final artwork created is the baked cake. So we've got these elements. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to flick through it. This is a separate video that you could watch. So we've got a line, which is a mark on a page with length, direction. It can be thick, thin, wiggly, continuous dashes, long, etc., etc. These are some examples of work, historical work that includes line. It's not the only element. And we've got line that's included here. So when we come back here, do we think line is shown in this artwork? And the answer is yes. Line is shown in this artwork. It outlines all the features. You could see it everywhere. Around the Mambo, you've got lines around the crown, you've got lines around the characters. They're everywhere. The next element is shape. So a shape is an enclosed space. It can be solid, geometric, organic, 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, etc., etc. These are some examples of shape, historical shape. These are some examples of contemporary shape. Do we see shape in our artwork? And the answer is yes. It's shown in this artwork. The cross features rectangles, and the mice have circle noses. Now, the same thing as the other parts of this. If you don't see shape, then don't write it. But you do need to have 3 elements. The next one, form. So form usually refers to 3-dimensional sculpture. So if I show you some examples here, so we do have a painting, but that is considered form because it almost looks 3-dimensional. These are examples of form as well. So when we look back at our artwork, do we see form? If you see form, then put it in there. If you don't, leave it out. The next one is space. So space refers to the distance around, between, below, and within an artwork. There is a foreground, middle ground, and background. And you might have recalled me using that terminology when we were looking and describing before. So whatever's at the front is the foreground. You got the middle ground, you got the background. These are some examples of how artists have used space. So has this artist shown space? From my point of view, they have. Space is shown in this artwork. The foreground features the 2 smaller mice as the Roman guards. The middle ground features the large main mouse. And the background shows the houses. It might be you've got a variation of that, that's fine, but space is shown. If we flick through to texture, so texture is the surface quality and the appearance of a feel of a surface. So it can be visual texture, how it looks, or tactile texture, how it actually feels. These are some examples of how texture has been shown in artwork. So you need to consider, is texture shown here? I have had students say texture is shown in the wood grain or in the grass. So if you want to list texture, that's fine. Color. So color refers to a hue, consists of intensity, it can be warm, cold, etc., etc. So we've got all sorts of color. Do we have color? Obviously, we do have color. You could name all the colors: blue, red, yellow, green, etc. These are some examples of historical colour and contemporary colour. Value. So value is very similar to tone. Tone is where you're showing basically a dark tone, a mid-tone, and a light tone. It gives a 3 dimensions to things. So these are some examples of tone. So you can see light to dark, trying to make stuff look realistic, basically. If you see tone here, I personally don't see tone, but I have had students say that they think there is a darker part of the mouse here and it goes into a light. So if you see tone, then you add it. So that's elements. You can list more than 3, but you only need 3. The principles is a little bit trickier. So people often find the principles harder to understand. Balance, harmony and unity, proportion and scale, contrast, emphasis, rhythm and movement, composition, pattern, repetition, and variety. So we've got balance. So we've got symmetrical balance, that's like a butterfly, same on both sides. You've got asymmetrical balance, where there's one side a bit heavier, or radial balance, where it comes from the middle. So we've got artworks that are heavy on one side. This is asymmetrical. This is some contemporary asymmetrical work. This is work that's symmetrical, so it means that it's the same on both sides. Probably the most symmetrical work is The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci. You can see everything goes to Jesus' head. This is an example of symmetrical work too, and radial. So do you see balance? Personally, I do. Is shown in this artwork with 2 mice either side of the cross and 2 houses either side of the cross at the top of the artwork. If you don't see balance, then don't write it. Next one, we've got harmony and unity. So this is really to do with your own aesthetic. Do you like the artwork? If you like it, then you will see harmony because you think everything works beautiful together. If you don't like it, you're not going to see harmony. So for me, I love these artworks and they're harmonious to me, but you might look at them and go, oh, I don't like them at all. And that's perfectly fine. So if you see harmony, if you like the work, then you would write harmony is shown because of whatever reason, why you think everything works together. If you don't like it, you can't write this. Okay, it doesn't make any sense because ultimately it's about your own aesthetic, what you think is beautiful. Scale. So the quickest way of me describing scale is you've got 2 objects, you've got a large one and a small one. These are some examples of proportion. So you can see things are big and small. Distorted proportion. Scale. So you can see a very close up of a flower, but you've got this big massive cup and a cone with a tiny bed. Or you've got a giant puppy made out of flowers or giant rats. So when we look at this work, do we see scale? For me, I do. Scale is shown by the large mouse on the cross as it stands out the most. Now you might have a different reason why you see scale or proportion, but that could be an answer. Contrast. So the easiest way to describe contrast is the large difference between 2 things. So black lips on a white background or white lips on a black background is probably the easiest way, but there are different ways you can show contrast. These are some examples of contrast because obviously you've got the Vermeer's girl with a pearl earring and the black background makes her stand out. We've got Laura Zombie with the white polar bear against that bluey dark background. So when you look at this work, is contrast shown? Contrast is definitely shown. You've got red writing on a light background. Even the blue nose against the grey mouse shows contrast. Emphasis. So this is where something is emphasized and stands out. So you can see, the red flower in between all of this. Emphasis. So you've got the alien person in the Scream. You've got Klimt's face that stands out, or The Dancer by Degas. So if you see emphasis, and you could argue that perhaps the writing is emphasis, maybe you could argue that the mouse is emphasis, both would be acceptable. Rhythm is hard to explain, so I'm going to skip that. Movement, is there any movement shown on this work? Probably the greatest movement shown is Through the Starry Night by Van Gogh, or Duchamp with the person walking down the stairs, or Hokusai's Great Wave. Some students have argued that the little sweat beads show movement, and also movement shown with the smoke from the chimneys. What else have we got? Composition, patterns. You could argue that there's patterns on the shorts. And I reckon we're going to leave that there. So you only need 3. The next part, what is the meaning or message of the work? What narrative is the artist trying to convey? So it's obviously about the crucifixion of Jesus. He has put a mouse instead of Jesus. Why is he trying to do that? Why is he trying to retell the story? And this is your opinion. Why did he do it? We don't really know why he did it, but you want to write 1 to 2 paragraphs. How has the surf culture and Mambo humour been shown in this work? Well, like I said, I shortcut where I can. So the surf culture and Mambo humour have been expressed in this artwork through the main mouse wearing board shorts, which is a surfing thing. It is also shown with the 2 mice at the bottom holding pretend surfboards while standing on sand. Tell me about the connection between Christianity and this artwork. Well, we can see there's a cross, so that is a religious symbol. We can see that this mouse is pretending to be Jesus. They've got the crucifixion happening. You've got the 2 Roman guards at the bottom, and obviously they're saying a quote that is similar to what Jesus said in the Bible. So that's what you would write here. Once you've actually answered it, you want to delete your guide questions. The easiest part is judgment, and there are 3 ways you can answer this. You either really dislike this work, and if you do, write what you think. I'm completely offended by this work. It's making a mockery of Christianity and beliefs. It shouldn't have a cartoon character depicting Jesus. If that's what you feel, write it down. The other way you can answer it is maybe you really love it, and I have had students say that too. So it might be, I love the colours, I love a bit of fun, I love that maybe perhaps the artist is trying to convey this story to a younger audience. Whatever your reasons, write why you like it. And then you get a fence sitter. So you don't dislike it, but you don't like it. Write that. I don't love it because it's not my style of artwork. Or I don't hate it, but this is the reason why. What I don't want you to write is write an answer that you think I want to read. I would much prefer to read your opinion because that's really, really important. So please write what you think, and after you've written it, delete the guide question, save it, and upload it to SEC during the class evidence. Good luck. This should take you a double lesson if you're doing this properly. Thanks.